Welcome back, everyone. We're diving back into the world of Saadi, of Shiraz.
That's right. This is episode 35.
Wow.
35.
Out of 50. So we're really getting
We're getting there.
deep into these conversations with Dr. Dinani.
And Dr. Larijani.
Yeah. Just a reminder to everyone that, this is a translation.
Yes.
So we're doing our best to capture all of the nuances.
Absolutely. Some things might.
But,
Get lost, yeah.
So today we're looking at how Saadi takes these, really simple stories,
Yes.
poems, but he uses them to, unlock these huge, big
Profound.
truths about, what it even means to be human,
Yeah.
And what's really neat is we'll be looking at how, you listening right now can actually use these insights in your own life.
I love that.
Yeah. For example, we'll be exploring this whole idea from Saadi about how even if you're meditating on a mountaintop, classic image.
Right.
You might not actually be experiencing solitude, true solitude.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And what that means for you spiritually is, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It's a game changer. And Dr. Dinani really stresses this point that true solitude is not about, physically being alone.
Right.
It's really a state of mind.
A state of mind. Okay.
He even says you could be in the middle of Times Square.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine all the noise and chaos.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And still achieve this deep inner solitude.
Okay, so let me just, play this back.
Yeah.
So you're saying, even if I'm sitting in a quiet room, lights dimmed, meditation app playing.
Sure, yeah.
If my mind is, racing about my to-do list,
Yeah.
I'm not actually alone.
Not in the truest sense. Exactly. Dr. Dinani uses this great phrase. He calls it lost in the forbidden to describe how we get pulled away from that peaceful state.
Lost in the forbidden, okay.
Yeah, and think of it, you're trying to focus on your breath, but all you can think about is that email you have to send or what you're making for dinner.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah,
All body. But your body still, but your mind is just everywhere else. So relatable. I've definitely had those meditations where I'm like, am I even doing this right? But what I find interesting is how Dr. Larijani kind of adds to this.
Yeah, he has a great point.
He points out that the very fact that we even question if true solitude is possible, that tells us something important, It suggests there's a part of you that's actually separate from all those crazy thoughts and feelings that are swirling around.
Right.
And he argues that recognizing that separation, that's a big part of what it means to grow spiritually.
That's such a fascinating point. It's like that realization, you're not your thoughts.
Yeah.
You're the awareness behind them. And, to illustrate this idea, Dr. Dinani brings in one of Saadi's poems about moving from solitude to a vast desert. He explains that symbolically, the desert represents everything that's not you.
Oh, so it's not just an actual physical place.
Right. It's much broader than that.
It's everything outside of ourselves.
Exactly. Your phone, your worries, the whole universe, they all become part of that desert.
Okay. I see.
And then Dr. Larijani adds another layer to this. He says there's this ultimate you out there, which is the divine.
Oh, wow. So it's even more profound. Saadi's poem isn't just about finding a quiet spot. It's about understanding our place in this vastness of existence and our connection to something way bigger than us.
You got it. And that takes us to another one of Saadi's brilliant lines. He says, if you have a heart, seek reason. It's a bit counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's wait a minute. We usually think of those as opposites, don't we?
Exactly. We have to pick head or heart.
Should I follow my head or my heart? That kind of thing.
Exactly. But Saadi's saying you don't have to choose. Dr. Dinani really stresses this. He believes that a compassionate heart is actually what fuels our desire to learn and seek wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
He says without that empathy, reason can become cold.
Right.
Even manipulative. Think about it. Someone can be incredibly intelligent, right?
Yeah.
But if they don't care about others, that intelligence could be used for selfish purposes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to just be smart. You need to have a good heart.
Right. And Dr. Larijani jumps in here. He says, yeah, emotions without reason, that leads to chaos.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So we need that balance to make good choices and navigate this crazy thing called life.
This is making me think about how often we try to, suppress our emotions or just make decisions based solely on logic.
It happens all the time.
Saadi and these scholars are saying, no, we need both working together.
Yeah, find that sweet spot, you know, where your head and your heart are aligned. That's where true wisdom comes in.
Totally. And speaking of looking deeper, like not just staying on that surface level, that's a theme that really runs through Saadi's work.
It does.
And Dr. Dinani has this like really great analogy for this. He says, experiencing the world superficially is like sucking on something but never getting to the essence.
Oh, I like that.
And then he gives the example of an almond. You can chew on that shell all day, but you're never going to taste the actual nut inside. Oh, so we're missing the good stuff, the real nutrition, the nourishment.
That's it. We get so caught up in appearances and quick fixes that we forget to go deeper and to, really engage with the world and find the substance.
Totally.
And, to emphasize that even more, Dr. Larijani quotes a verse from the Quran that says, everything will perish except for the face of your Lord.
Whoa. Okay.
So he's highlighting this idea that, like, what truly endures is the essence, not the temporary outer form. So Saadi's pushing us, he's urging us to look past those, like, superficial layers in ourselves, in others, even in our problems.
Yeah.
And find the real meaning and value underneath.
And that leads us to another poem by Saadi where he talks about casting aside a heart that's enamored by forms. And this leads to a discussion about a concept called shirk.
Okay, so shirk. When I hear that word, I automatically think about idolatry, like worshiping statues or images. Yeah, that's one way to understand it. But Dr. Dinani explains that shirk is actually, it's much broader than that. It's really about anything that distracts us from the one true God.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that becomes like an idol in our lives.
Okay. So it could be like money, fame, power, even like an obsession with our appearance.
Yes, all those things that take our focus away from what truly matters.
If they pull us away. Okay.
Exactly. And Dr. Dinani has this really great analogy. He uses a compass. He says, imagine the needle is constantly being pulled by all these different magnets. It can't accurately point north.
Right. Okay, so our hearts are like that compass. And those magnets are all of our desires.
Yeah.
Our attachments pulling us in every direction.
Exactly. And Dr. Larijani really emphasizes that even our rituals and religious practices can become a form of shirk.
Oh, wow.
If our intentions aren't pure. It's not just what we do, but why we do it.
Yeah. Our motivations.
Our inner motivations matter just as much as our outward actions.
It's such a good reminder, to just check in with yourself. Like, why am I doing this? What's really driving my actions? Because if we're not careful, all sorts of things can become idols without us even realizing it.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught in those distractions, those magnets pulling us every which way.
Yeah.
But that's where Saadi's wisdom is so powerful. He doesn't just point out the problem,
Yeah.
He offers a solution. He gives us this idea of the spiritual caravan.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about this caravan analogy. I'm intrigued.
So Dr. Dinani explains it like this. A caravan, it has a destination, it has a route, and it needs everyone to work together if they want to get there safely.
Right.
Think about it. Everyone's got their role to play. They rely on each other for support. They got to stay focused to reach their goal.
So he's comparing that to our spiritual journeys. We're not just wandering around aimlessly through life. There's a purpose, a path.
Exactly. So it provides the wisdom, the map, you could say, but we have to put in the effort, to follow it. And Dr. Larijani, he adds this beautiful point. He talks about the importance of soul friends.
Oh, soul friends.
Yeah, these are the people, they get it. They understand the journey. They can offer guidance, support when things get rough. They're like the experienced travelers in the caravan, helping you navigate the tough terrain.
I see. So it's not just about finding a teacher or a guide, but having those people, those kindred spirits, who are on the same path with you.
That's it. And the beauty is it's not just one way. As you gain experience, you become a source of support for others. You share what you've learned, encourage others. Dr. Larijani emphasizes this, true companionship. It's about mutual support.
Right.
We learn from those ahead. We share what we learn with those behind us.
I like that, this beautiful cycle of giving and receiving.
Exactly. And, it brings us back to something that's so central to Saadi's work, this idea of love.
Right.
But not just romantic love. This is something much bigger.
Right, of course, yeah.
This is universal love, embraces everything. Dr. Dinani points to a passage where Saadi describes how the lover sees no fault in the beloved and finds any affliction borne for the sake of the beloved to be light. It's about seeing beauty in everything, even the hard stuff.
Wow, that's a high standard. To love someone, sure, when things are easy, but to see that same beauty even when things are tough, how do you even cultivate that kind of love?
Well, you know that poem we discussed earlier about casting aside the heart that's enamored by forms? There's a line in there. It says, "Unveil the truth to us so we may shatter these idols." Dr. Larijani points out the word unveil. That's really key.
What's so special about unveil?
It suggests that the truth is already there. It's just hidden, veiled by our ignorance, all our worldly desires that we were talking about. So it's not about creating something new. It's about uncovering what's already within.
It's like we have this capacity for love, for connection, but it gets buried under all the noise of life.
That's it. And Saadi's work, it's like a guide to clear away those obstacles so we can experience that love fully.
Yeah.
He's giving us these tools for self-discovery, spiritual awakening, but it requires effort. Dr. Dinani makes this point that Saadi describes spiritual experience using, metaphors of taste, of flavor. He talks about true knowledge, having this flavor you can only experience, not just understand intellectually.
I've never thought of it that way, but that makes sense.
Right.
Like you can read a recipe for a dish, but until you actually taste it, you don't really know what it's like.
Exactly. And Dr. Larijani connects this to Saadi's emphasis on practice. It's not enough to just know these concepts. You got to live them, embody them, like learning an instrument. You can study all the theory, but until you pick it up, practice, you won't understand what it means to make music.
It's that doing, the actual doing.
The practice. And it's through that practice that we develop that deeper knowing, that direct experience that Saadi is guiding us towards.
So it's not just about passively reading these poems or listening to us talk about them. It's about taking those insights and applying them to our own lives, tasting that wisdom, seeing how it transforms us.
And that transformation isn't always easy.
Yeah.
Saadi, he doesn't shy away from the hard stuff, the darker sides of being human. In fact, Dr. Dinani points out how Saadi, he really embraces those difficult emotions.
Like our flaws, our fears.
Yes, he sees them as part of the experience, not something to just avoid or suppress.
It's like we're always told to push those negative thoughts and feelings away.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Saadi's saying that's not how we grow.
You got it. He says trying to ignore those shadow parts of ourselves, it just makes them stronger.
Right.
They fester, erupt in unhealthy ways. Dr. Larijani highlights this passage where Saadi writes, "Whoever knows himself knows his Lord." He's saying true self-knowledge, it requires facing those shadows, understanding where they come from, and then learning to transform them.
It's like they become the fuel for our growth.
Exactly. Like that saying, our greatest wounds become our greatest sources of healing.
Yeah, I like that.
And Dr. Dinani, he uses this powerful analogy. He compares it to refining gold.
Okay.
He says gold ore has to be heated, pounded, purified to remove all the impurities so its true brilliance can shine through.
Wow.
Our spiritual journey is similar.
So the trials and tribulations, those are like the refining fire.
Exactly. It's not about avoiding the fire, but using it to transform.
And we don't have to go through it alone.
No, absolutely not. Dr. Larijani reminds us, Saadi believed in seeking guidance.
Okay.
From teachers, mentors, spiritual companions, those who can help us through the tough stuff.
So it's like having a guide who knows the way, they can help you avoid the pitfalls.
Exactly. They can help you see those potential pitfalls, encourage you when you want to give up.
It makes me think about, how important it is to surround yourself with people who inspire you.
Yeah.
Who challenge you.
Yes. Challenge you, remind you of your potential.
Absolutely. And that actually leads me to something I've been wondering about. There's a lot of talk about the importance of language in Saadi's work, but I'm not sure I totally get it.
Yes. Language and reality. Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani, they both get so into this.
Yeah.
Dr. Dinani, he uses this great analogy of a finger pointing at the moon.
Okay.
He explains the finger, it's not the moon itself, but it points us towards it. Language is like that finger. It can point us towards the truth, towards the divine, but it's not the truth itself.
So words are tools. They can be helpful, but we can't get so caught up in the words themselves that we miss the actual experience they're pointing to.
Yes. And Dr. Larijani adds that Saadi, he was a master at using language to evoke a sense of, the ineffable, that which can't be fully expressed in words. He uses metaphors, imagery, rhythm, all these tools to create an experience that goes beyond the limits of language.
It's like he's using words to point beyond words.
Exactly. And I remember Dr. Dinani talking about the importance of silence, too.
Oh, right. Silence. It's like those pauses in music.
Yes. The power of silence.
And make it hit harder.
Or the spaces between the lines of a book, where the true meaning lies. Saadi is inviting us to listen not just to the words, but to that silence that surrounds them.
But that takes a certain kind of stillness, doesn't it?
It does.
A quieting of the mind, a willingness to like let go of our ideas about things and just be present.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It goes back to that solitude we talked about, that inward state of detachment, clearing away all that mental clutter so we can see more clearly. And Dr. Larijani uses this beautiful metaphor to describe inner stillness, a mirror.
Oh, okay. A mirror, how?
He says a mirror, it just reflects whatever is in front of it. If the surface is disturbed, the reflection is distorted.
Right.
But when the mirror is still, the reflection is clear, accurate.
He's comparing that to our minds.
Yes. If our minds are chaotic, our perception gets messed up. But when we cultivate that inner stillness, we see things as they truly are.
It's like if our minds are full of all those thoughts and desires, it's like looking through a dirty window.
Exactly. But when we cultivate that stillness, we become a clear mirror, reflecting the truth. And Dr. Dinani builds on this with another analogy. He talks about polishing a mirror.
Okay, so how does that fit in?
He says our hearts are like mirrors. They've become tarnished over time, covered in dust, all those worldly attachments, negative habits.
So our job is to polish those mirrors.
Yeah.
Purify our hearts and minds to see clearly again.
That's it. But that polishing, it's not a one-time thing. It's a constant practice.
Right, it's an ongoing effort to clear that dust and maintain that clarity.
It's a lifelong journey of self-discovery and refinement, cultivating those qualities that let us reflect that divine light.
I love that. It reminds me that we have the power to choose what we reflect. We can focus on the good, the beautiful, the true, or let negativity cloud our vision.
It's our choice. And Saadi's poetry, it's like a guide to help us make that choice more consciously.
More intentionally, yeah. And speaking of, living a meaningful life, there's a passage where Saadi says, "Life is a precious gift. Don't waste it on trivial pursuits." Such a good reminder to prioritize, what really matters.
It is. But what does Saadi say actually makes a life meaningful?
Yeah, what should we be focusing on?
Well, Dr. Dinani, he explains that Saadi believed true wealth, it's not about possessions.
Right.
It's about the richness of your inner life, your relationships, your character, how you contribute to the world, your connection to the divine.
It's about shifting our focus inward.
Yes. From chasing fleeting things to cultivating qualities that bring lasting peace.
It makes you think about how often we get stuck in that rat race.
Yeah.
Saadi's reminding us to slow down and enjoy the simple things.
Exactly. And that leads to a really interesting discussion about time. Dr. Dinani points out that Saadi saw time as both this precious resource, but also a potential trap.
Okay, how so?
He says we get so caught up in the past.
Right, regretting mistakes.
Yes, or worrying about the future. And in doing so, we miss the present moment.
It's like, we're never really here.
We're always living somewhere else.
Yeah, constantly missing out.
And Dr. Larijani shares Saadi's advice on how to escape that trap. He says, shift your awareness to the present moment. Savor each experience. Appreciate the small stuff.
Live each day as if it were your last.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. Saadi's poetry is full of these reminders to embrace the moment.
He has this beautiful line, "The flower that blooms today will wither tomorrow. Enjoy its fragrance while you can." It's this reminder that everything is temporary, so really appreciate it. And that awareness, it actually deepens our appreciation for life.
Yeah.
Makes each moment more precious, motivates us to live more intentionally.
It's a total shift in perspective. It's about letting go of the past, our anxieties about the future.
And just being present.
Right here, right now.
Yes. Appreciating the simple things. The warmth of the sun, a good meal.
Yeah.
The laughter of loved ones.
Beautifully said. And it's not about pretending difficulties don't exist, right?
Of course not.
It's about choosing to focus on what's good.
Even in the midst of challenges.
Yeah. This whole journey, it sounds like intense. Peeling back all these layers of, conditioning and beliefs. Dr. Dinani actually uses the analogy of peeling an onion to describe the spiritual journey.
I love that. It speaks to that gradual unveiling, discovering deeper and deeper truths as you go. But Dr. Larijani points out that process, it can be both exhilarating and painful.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Exhilarating because you're discovering these new insights.
Right.
But also painful because you have to let go of old beliefs.
Right.
Comfortable ways of seeing things.
It's like shedding layers that no longer serve you.
Yes.
Even if it's uncomfortable.
Even painful at times.
Yeah. And sometimes those layers are tough to peel away.
They are. It takes effort, willingness to face those shadows.
But Saadi reminds us it's worth it.
It is. With each layer we shed, we get closer to our true nature, to that divine spark within us.
It's like uncovering your authentic self, that goodness that was always there,
Yeah.
hidden under all those layers.
And as we peel them away, we become more free, more loving, more compassionate.
More alive, more fully alive.
Beautifully said. We start to see the world with new eyes.
Yeah.
Discover a depth of joy we never knew existed.
And it all starts with a single step.
It does. And Saadi's poetry, it can be that first step, those initial insights
Leading us on the path.
to self-discovery, spiritual growth.
And even though the path is long and winding, Saadi reminds us the destination is worth it.
Every step. And you know, we've been talking about how the journey is part of the destination.
Yeah.
It's in those moments of exploring, of challenging ourselves, of growing. That's where we really experience the beauty of life.
Right.
Saadi's work is all about embracing all of it.
The highs and lows, the joy, the sorrow.
He invites us to savor it all, to learn from every encounter,
Live each day with a full heart.
full of love, gratitude, purpose.
He reminds us that we're all connected.
We are. And to recognize that divine spark in ourselves, in others.
And to live in a way that reflects that.
And, you know, as we've been talking about, this journey isn't a solitary one.
Right.
Saadi reminds us over and over the importance of community,
Yeah.
supporting each other along the way.
Right. We need each other.
We do. We're all in this together. And
Yeah.
that's what makes these conversations with Dr. Dinani and Dr.
Yeah.
Larijani so enriching.
Yeah.
We're all learning from each other, sharing these insights, deepening our understanding.
It's a beautiful example of how those soul friends, can enrich our lives, help us stay on the path.
Totally. And it makes me think, what role does Saadi himself play in all of this? Centuries after his death, his words are still guiding us, inspiring us.
It's remarkable.
It's like he's this wise elder, offering guidance from beyond the grave.
And his words, they speak to us on such a personal level. No matter who you are, where you are in the world, it's like he's having a direct conversation with you.
That's what I love about his work. It feels so timeless, universal. But it's not passive, is it? No, not at all. Dr. Dinani, he stresses that Saadi's poetry, it's meant to be a catalyst
There's action.
for transformation. He's giving us a blueprint for living a more meaningful life.
And Dr. Larijani, he reminds us that the real work starts when we close the book
Yeah.
and start applying these ideas to our own lives,
Turn those insights into action.
into real changes in how we think, how we feel, how we behave.
And that's where the magic happens. That's where we see the real power of Saadi's wisdom unfold.
So it's not just about knowing, but doing.
Becoming better versions of ourselves.
The Adi's guiding us towards a life of awareness, compassion, connection.
It's a journey worth taking, even if there are some thorns along the way.
Without a doubt, the rewards are immense.
Oh.
Wow, this deep dive into Saadi has been really eye-opening.
It really has.
We've explored so much. Solitude, self-knowledge, love, living in the present moment, even the role of language and silence. If you had to, sum it all up, what would be the key takeaway for everyone listening?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think one of the most powerful things that comes through is that the path to a truly meaningful life, it's an ongoing journey of self-discovery, of growth, of connection. It's not a destination you reach.
Yeah. It's a process.
Exactly.
So Dadi's not giving us, rules.
Right.
He's giving us, a framework
Mm.
to understand ourselves in the world.
You said it perfectly. He's offering guidance on how to, navigate the ups and downs of life.
With wisdom and compassion.
With wisdom and compassion,
Yeah.
yes. And never stop learning.
Keep growing. Keep
Yeah.
evolving.
Yeah.
But we don't have to do it alone.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Saadi, again and again, he stresses the importance of community.
We need each other.
Yeah, we need those soul friends, the ones who get it.
Offer encouragement and support.
Absolutely. And we need to share our own experiences, pay it forward. It creates this ripple effect,
Of wisdom and compassion.
extending outward.
So we're all connected in this beautiful web. And it goes back to that idea, the journey is part of the destination.
It really is. It's in those moments.
Yeah.
Of exploring, of being challenged, of growing. That's where we really experience life.
Right.
And Saadi, he's all about embracing that. The
Right.
highs and lows, the joy and sorrow. He encourages us, savor each moment, learn from every encounter.
Live each day with purpose.
Yeah, and with a heart full of love and gratitude.
So as we wrap up this exploration of Saadi's wisdom, I think it's fitting to leave our listeners with a question to ponder.
Ooh, I like that. What question are you thinking of?
Well, considering all that we've talked about today,
Yeah.
thinking back to that compass analogy, What magnets are pulling your compass needle away from true north? What can you do, starting today, to align your actions with your deepest values? To live a life that truly reflects the wisdom you've learned from Saadi?
That's a powerful question. It reminds us that Saadi's work, it's not just meant to be, like, admired.
Yeah.
It's meant to be lived, embodied. It's an invitation to step onto that path, embrace the journey, discover that incredible potential within each of us.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into Saadi of Shiraz. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
We have.
And we encourage you to continue exploring his work, share your own insights. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining your light.